Sometimes we choose our path. Other times the path chooses us. Through it all, we keep pushing forward, driven by a deeper purpose.
Welcome back, everyone. Happy Super Bowl Sunday continues with more trailers. They dropped a Star Wars Mandalorian Grogu trailer, this time narrated by Sam Elliott to make it sound kind of like a beer commercial. That's the kind of vibe they're going with here. Like, this is a beer commercial that you would normally see during a Super Bowl or a football game, but in the Star Wars universe with the Mandalorian and Grogu and a bunch of Tauntauns. That's probably the big reveal of the trailer, is that Tauntauns are back in live action in the Star Wars universe. We've had Tauntauns before in animation, but this is the first big time in live action since The Empire Strikes Back. And because of the big Tauntauns reveal, all the footage of them on the snow planet in the previous trailers now seems like it's happening on actual Hoth. There were a lot of questions about this when the initial trailers dropped. Is it going to be on Hoth or just another random ice planet? Zoom and enhance, notice how much they've tuned up their character models from the original live-action versions in Empire Strikes Back, based on the fact that most of the stuff for The Mandalorian is done on the volume with special effects. I'm assuming that this is some puppetry tuned up with a lot of special effects, but there's still a little bit of puppetry going on here. Because of the way The Mandalorian and Grogu, just at large for the most part, is filmed on the volume with heavy special effects compared to, say, something like Andor, which was done largely live-action models, where they actually build out the sets and they build out a lot of the physical stuff. This is probably why this Super Bowl Mandalorian and Grogu trailer is giving heavy AI vibes. Sam Elliott narrating this also makes me wonder if he has a cameo somewhere in the movie. We will see, because The Mandalorian is all about being a space western, and he shows up in many western TV series and movies over the years. There were a couple scenes in the previous trailers inside a space bar with Mando going full Roadhouse just to make more Sam Elliott puns. It would be totally appropriate to see Sam Elliott show up in a space bar like that.
Roadhouse.
What he actually says during the trailer is, sometimes we choose our path, other times the path chooses us. Through it all, we keep pushing forward, driven by a deeper purpose, guided by an unseen force. Haha, point at the screen, do the Leonardo DiCaprio meme. We see what you're doing there. They said the name of the thing inside the thing. Then he goes on to say, the journey never gets any easier, the bond just gets harder to break, this is the way. If this trailer is an actual scene taken from the movie, like actual footage from the movie, it's probably them on their way to whatever mission this is that takes them to the ice planet in the first place, which now sounds like we have soft confirmation it is Hoth, but there could be Tauntauns on other ice planets too. We will see about that. In the new version of the trailer, they also swapped in footage featuring Grogu destroying the Mouser droid from the D23 trailer in the Japanese trailer. I did a much longer video for that a while ago. It's meant to be part of this longer scene of them attacking this snowy Imperial base here, where Grogu uses the Force to crush the Mouser droid. We learned a little more about what's going on with Rada the Hutt during the movie, too. So Jeremy Allen White, who's actually voicing the character, said that Rada teams up with Mando and Grogu and helps them on their adventure during the film. Connecting the dots, what he's actually probably talking about is when Mando is trying to get into the Hutt vault here with these Old Republic-looking droids guarding it. You probably noticed that it's the Desaligic clan symbol on it. This is Jabba and therefore Rada the Hutt's family symbol on it, so Mando probably needs Rada's help to get into his family vault and get whatever's inside of it. On the official versions of the movie poster, they actually have the Hutt twins from the Book of Boba Fett. They're meant to be canonically cousins of Jabba and Rada, so there's probably a much bigger storyline with Jabba's family just in general tied to Rada the Hutt and this vault. Just the fact that it's being guarded by droids that look like they're Old Republic era, older than the prequel era, makes it seem like it's been here for centuries, if not thousands of years. Hutts also live very long lifespans too. This is probably part of the main mission of the movie that they're on. We've probably seen them taking few smaller bounties too, because that's what they've been doing since the events of The Mandalorian Season 3 ending, working for the New Republic. Sigourney Weaver's Colonel character here, she's in charge of the base here that we saw Carson Teva at. We've been here a couple times in previous seasons. And this monster that Mando is forced to fight in the ring before he gets Rada's help in the gladiator pit here is meant to be a Mantellan Savrip, a real version of one of the pieces from the Dejarik board on the Millennium Falcon. So it's just meant to be another big eye-winking moment from behind the camera, calling back to A New Hope, but also Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni doing bigger versions of their toys, which is pretty much what they did in previous seasons, like, here's live-action versions of the games that we played with our Star Wars toys when we were kids.
Because a droid don't pull people's arms out of their sockets when they lose. Wookiees are known to do that.
Just based on the progression of the fights, it seems like Mando and Grogu go to the gladiator pit to get Rada's help and watch him fight because he has that giant 8-pack on him, like he's super swole now. What a twist. Maybe that's because of the trauma he experienced when he was a baby. Then they wind up having to fight the Savrip, and then they probably get Rada's help after this and get the information on his Hutt family clan's vault. The other really big deep-cut Easter egg here, if you spot it in the background, zoom in enhance in the cityscape, you actually see an advertisement in-universe for the Halcyon cruiser, which is the real-life Star Wars Starliner hotel that they actually closed down a little while ago, too. Like the really expensive one, people did hours-long video essays on what went wrong with that Star Wars hotel. I never quite found the time to go visit it myself, but if you did actually visit that Star Wars hotel, just post all your reactions to it in the comments below, if you liked it or if you hated it. Really, I think the biggest criticism against it was the crazy, crazy high price. Like, it was a very, very expensive trip. Probably one of the other biggest things during the trailer here, one of the biggest surprises, is that he's flying another Razor Crest here to a Delphi base. Just seems like he found another model of this ship. There are a lot of questions about how he got the Razor Crest back. I don't think it's the exact same Razor Crest that got blown up during The Mandalorian Season 2, because it basically got incinerated. Not totally clear what they're investigating here, where you see Grogu looking through the little eyeglass here, just having a little bit of fun with Dad. Whatever it seems like they're doing here, they're busting into this Imperial base. It might have something to do with them taking out all these people in this room in the leaked trailer. When Grogu and the Anzellans are crawling through the little pipes here, not totally clear where they are or why they're doing this. Mando takes out all these dudes in this bar, not totally sure what planet this is on, but Grogu is here with him. There's another water-based creature from lore. He might seem familiar, not totally sure why they're fighting him here or what's going on in this particular scene. They just want to show you some of the aliens they pulled out of the lore, like a whole bunch of deep cuts. I believe this is an updated, modern special effects version of an Amanaman, who is one of the characters featured inside Jabba's palace, like one of the aliens, so expect a lot of deep cuts like that in the movie. Notice that Grogu is learning, though, he can operate some of the controls properly on the Razor Crest, like it looks like he isn't just randomly pressing buttons for fun like he did when he first found him. My assumption is that all the Imperials that he meets are one of the factions of the Shadow Council. Like, they're just featuring more Shadow Council during this, because there's going to be a lot of that involved with the movie-related stuff that they're doing, building up to the big Thrawn movie that Dave Filoni is supposed to still be doing, which might just be one of the subsequent Mandalorian and Grogu movies now. Jon Favreau teasing that they still might actually do The Mandalorian Season 4 means they might not have completely pivoted away from the live-action series. We know they're doing Ahsoka Season 2, but currently that's the last scheduled thing that we know about that they're doing as a live-action TV series. Like, we don't know if they're going to stop doing Ahsoka after Season 2. Will they just shift her into the movies after this?
Culminating all of the storylines, the relationships, the characters that had been established over years and that many people grew up with. And there I was trying to support as much as I could what that fruition was.
No, Ahsoka's not there, John. She's over here. And I put her back in this box.
When they announced they were doing the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, it seemed like it was part of a larger shift where Star Wars was just going to focus more on theatrical movies, and then maybe eventually they would do some TV series in the future. Part of the idea as we know it is that if this new Mandalorian and Grogu movie is successful, they'll continue with sequels to this movie in addition to the Thrawn crossover movie that Dave Filoni is eventually going to do. He's still supposed to direct that. So assuming that things go well with this first movie, this Mandalorian part of the timeline where they're slowly adapting a version of the Thrawn trilogy from the original expanded universe books, like that Thrawn trilogy, we will just stay in this part of the timeline for a good long while for the next several years, in addition to a couple of other movies later in the timeline, like the Star Wars Starfighter movie, which takes place after The Rise of Skywalker, like at least 5 to 10 years after The Rise of Skywalker. That Sean Levy, Ryan Gosling movie isn't meant to be connected to Star Wars Episode 10 or anything like that. It's just meant to be a one-off thing, like an adventure all on its own. But supposedly, there will be some minor connections to what's happening with other movies in that part of the timeline that Star Wars eventually wants to do. My assumption there is they try to make it relatively self-contained, but if it does really well, then they will try to connect it to other stuff in that part of the timeline. But it is not meant to be connected to anything during the Mandalorian and Grogu part of the timeline, so do not expect an older version of Grogu to show up during that. When it comes to actual Ahsoka Season 2 plot, mostly what they've talked about and what we saw during the trailers was them culminating the Mortis Gods arc that they set up at the end of Season 1, like they're sort of teasing Mortis Gods as if we would actually see live-action versions of that storyline. and Dave Filoni addressing the whole Rory McCann recasting as Baylan Skoll taking over for Ray Stevenson. The really cool thing about this is that Rory McCann was actually real-life friends with Ray Stevenson long ago, so it actually wound up being even more meaningful because it's sort of like your friend taking over for your role if something happened to you. One of the other cool details that Dave Filoni and the Star Wars people revealed is that Rory McCann was actually up for Star Wars role long before Ahsoka Season 2, so this is one of the reasons why they went to him to recast for Baylan Skoll too. Originally, he was in talks to play a character during Andor Season 2. They didn't say which character, but you can let me know who you think he was supposed to play. It sounds like what happened is they chose to go with a different actor, so Rory McCann was already sort of in their system, like they were already thinking about him, like, oh, you're an amazing actor, we need to do something with you, and then along comes this opportunity during Ahsoka Season 2. Everybody post all your reactions in the comments below, and if you spotted any Easter eggs or references in the footage that I didn't talk about during the video or my previous videos, just write it below in the comments. Just because we're getting closer to the movie actually hitting theaters, what they'll probably do next is release a full story-based trailer, which will actually tell us what's actually going on during the movie and how they rope in a lot of the plots from the TV show and Ahsoka Season 2, because it all seems like it's building towards more and more crossover. Now, we're getting Ahsoka Season 2 trailer later this year. Of course, I'll do more videos for that as we get more footage. I've already done a video for the leaked trailer from Star Wars Celebration. Click here for that because it gets pretty wild, and click here for all my other Mandalorian and Grogu trailers. Thank you so much for watching.